Y'all are being so quiet, I can't really stand it. You were so excited out on the lawn, and then you got in here and just kind of quiet. You're just taking it all in, is that it? Just needed to know that. All right. So I know that with all the beauty surrounding us and taking it all in, that it's going to be difficult for me to focus on a sermon. I thought about riding a donkey in to get your attention, but I didn't want to mess up the new carpet. So. But you know, really, I am over the moon with excitement. It has been such a thrill to be part of this process and to watch it and to stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the finest people and leaders that I've ever worked with. I was leaving for work early one morning this week and said aloud, gosh, there are just so many details I need to attend to today. And Ann Lee said, yes, but it is well worth it. I said, well, absolutely. Believe me, I'm not complaining. I'm overwhelmed by goodness. And she said, that's a great title for a sermon. So there you have it. Now you know how I get my sermon titles that don't have anything to do with my messages. Overwhelmed by goodness. I wonder if those early parade watchers waving their palms and leafy branches long ago felt overwhelmed by goodness in that moment as they saw Jesus of Nazareth riding on a donkey on his way to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. He was on his way to Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city of peace. And then, like now, it was anything but a city of peace. And then, like now, it was more than a city. It was epic, emblematic, representative of dreams of a people or dreams of peoples. It was a historical and political and religious center where so much converges, where so much happens, and where the prospect of peace is as complicated as it is anywhere in the world. Are you with me? Yes. Jeru, shalom, shalom, peace, wholeness, the joining of opposites. And the story that Jim read so beautifully for us today is found in all four Gospels. And in the Gospel of John that was read this morning, Jesus goes out and finds his own donkey. In the other accounts, people get it for him. But today, he gets his own donkey. And I am struck again this year by this humorous and disorienting way that Jesus chooses to make his point that there is another way to be in the world, that there is another way to manifest power and change, that there are other paths in pursuit of peace than simply rolling in and rolling over anyone that gets in your way. That there's another way to peace besides brute force and manipulation. The people cried, Hosanna, save us from the way things are right now. You know, there's a philosophy that says if you want something to change, don't fight it directly, just do it differently. If you want something to change, don't fight it directly, just do it differently. You know, it seems, I don't know about you, but it seems to me that the new Pope is trying to do things differently. First of all, he took the name of a man for the first time who loved the poor and loved the earth and was all about simplicity. And as a cardinal, he lived in a simple apartment, took mass transit, cooked his own meals, washed the feet of AIDS patients. Hardly Vatican material, would you say? He did more than that. On the day that he was inaugurated as Pope, he did not ascend to the throne so that cardinals could kiss his ring and bow down, but he stayed on the same level as everybody else. When he walked out under that magnificent balcony overlooking hundreds of thousands of people in St. Peter's Square cheering, he wore a simple white robe and a wooden cross. He was still wearing his regular black shoes and the red Prada that were prepared for him. Now that's where I differ just a little, but he He asked the people to bless him, and he received their blessing. And I read last night that on this Holy Thursday, he will visit a prison in Rome for young offenders, and he will wash 12 of their feet. It sounds like he chose the donkey way. What do you think? After all, what powerful leader or king or magistrate or pope ever came riding on a donkey? Horses, yes. Motorcades, for sure. Pope-mobiles? Donkeys? No. Now, I do want to say that donkeys are misunderstood. They are. In fact, I've been reading a lot about them, and they're actually very intelligent beings. In fact, the literature and research says that their intelligence is superior of that to horses. They're not flighty, they're sure and steady, and they think through a situation before they move toward it. And some people interpret that as stubborn. I can relate to the donkey. I want to suggest this morning that Jesus, whose teachings we follow and whose life we seek to emulate, that this street theater of Palm Sunday modeled for us a rare combination of power and love and power, that nearly incomprehensible duo that I have come to believe is the key to justice and peace. Recently, I've been influenced greatly by a book by Adam Kahane called Power and Love, a Theory of Change in Social Theory. Kahane is a leader and an organizer and a facilitator. He's worked in 50 countries, from presidents to guerrillas to civil disobedient leaders to activists and UN officials. And this is his latest book. He's worked in some of the toughest situations in the world, in Guatemala and Colombia, in South Africa, as they were trying to make a way once apartheid was dismantled. And he talks about power and love, and he uses the definitions by Paul Tillich, the great theologian. Power is that drive of every living thing to realize itself with increasing intensity. The drive to achieve one's purpose, to get the job done. You with me for power? Love is that drive towards unity of the separated, the drive to connect, the drive to make whole. And Kahane says if we want to get unstuck, we must understand and work with both of these drives. He says wherever he goes, in whatever situation he's worked with across the decades, there's always, as people are trying to make change and reach resolutions, a love camp and a power camp. The power camp pays attention to interests and difference. The love camp pays attention to commonalities and connections. And usually one camp wins out, and solutions are not made that bring the whole together. I want you to think about power and love and how often you have or have not seen them in a combination that affects change. Take, just for a moment, an example, perhaps to make it clearer. Let's look at Congress just for a moment. I know, why ruin such a nice day? Their drive for power. Where is the love? On the other hand, if every time we turn on C-SPAN and Congress was just sitting around singing Kumbaya, try to imagine that, we would say, would you just do something? Chris, we're saying that now too, but Martin Luther King Jr. said, power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is anemic and sentimental. Love and power. The world is replete with examples of power without love that is reckless and abusive, is it not? And there are many examples of love without power that are merely sentimental, where no solution is really enacted. And when it comes to the church with a capital C, I have been in both the conservative world and the liberal world. And while these are vast generalizations, it is my experience that the more conservative the religion, the more the power drive is in play. While giving lip service to love, it is a power that reigns, the drive to save all people, the drive to force people into moral alignment, and it leaves love out. Are you with me? But then if we turn the spotlight on ourselves, as progressives and liberals, our drive for love, our drive for manifested in inclusion, there are times that we are simply afraid of the drive for power, of leaving someone else, We are afraid to take a stand, and thereby we are often sentimental and do not affect the kind of change that we need to in the world. This Palm Sunday, we have an example of one who embodied both love and power. His drive for inclusion and justice were so intense, it sparked a movement that 2,000 years later we are still talking about how to bring love and power together in a way that affects change, first in ourselves and then in others. But here's the real deal. He did it right, riding in on a donkey, bringing love and power together. But we already know the end of the story. Thursday and Friday, it's not pretty. Oh yes, and there is Resurrection Sunday where love and power are raised, but maybe not in the way that we have imagined. You see, we are called to find a way to bring love and power in our lives without a guarantee of outcome. So parents in the room, you do your very best. You can live in power and in love and give your child or children the very best that you have. And you and I know that no outcome is guaranteed. But we do it anyway. Those of you in relationships of all different kinds, maybe you're struggling with someone in relationship. Maybe you're working to integrate power and love in your life where you can be authentically you and also let them be authentically themselves. And you're trying your best to align those things to have a loving and just filled relationship. But you can't make the other person do something. The outcome is not guaranteed. You do it anyway. In your workplace, sometimes the most challenging of all places, are you bringing love to what is usually a power dynamic in work? It doesn't matter if anyone else is. You are called to do that, and you do it anyway, regardless that there is no guarantee of outcome. Who we are in this world does not guarantee how things will be. But what it does mean is that we have lived with integrity, and that we can look ourselves in the mirror and one another and stand upright, doing the best we can, and we leave the rest. beautiful examples of power and love working together. The drive to realize what we all dreamed and the love to bring as many people along with input and feedback as possible. And our task is now to make this place a place where love and power work together, where real change is effected first in ourselves and then around us, where we are not afraid to take a stand, and we do our best to include everybody, where we bring the separated to wholeness. And no outcome is guaranteed, but by choosing the donkey way, we probably will be overwhelmed by goodness. Amen.